Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host for this evening, Matt High, joined by Chris Felice. Chris, let's get started. How is Vampire?
Vampire's good. I won. I know, everyone's favorite. The Vampire update by yours truly. I am in a rather interesting scenario, however. My opponent doesn't really have players that I want. Which is I'm at that point. I'm currently deciding if we were talking about beforehand. He has Jaden Daniels. I have Bo Nix, considering perhaps that trade off, but I'm not sure if that's really correct. Besides that, I think every single other player that I have is just better than what he has. So, unfortunately, however, for the most part, it's been a really interesting week. I won in Dynasty, which is weird because I was throwing. I scored the second to most points in the week, which is also weird because I'm throwing. I did pretty bad this week, though, overall. I think I went like 4 for 10, which is pretty not great. So I'm hoping with all of the bye weeks out of the way, with the full force of my roster, that I will be able to come back stronger this Thanksgiving week. What about you, Matt? How are you feeling? How are you doing? What's going on?
Mixed bag for the most part. Lost in our redraft league, so unfortunately I now have like a 2% chance of making the finals. I need about 4 miracles to all coincide, so not gonna do well there. But in Dynasty, I dropped to second place because Richie decided to win.
You're so bad.
Saquon Barkley.
You're dumb.
Decides to just go off, and thank you, Giants, for sending him away. It was great. Feels really good.
I bet Daniel Jones feels really good on that free agency right now, bro.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about
I bet you that feels really good in that Giants wallet.
It's really bad. But overall, not too bad. I actually go up against Richie this week. I beat him the last time we saw each other way back when. But obviously things have changed. So I have a lot going. He made a couple trades right before our matchup, and it didn't help. So I'm hoping I get a little bit lucky this week. No one's on bye, so I have my full roster, some decent matchups, so we'll see how it goes. But then I go through Joe next week. So then we head into the finals. We're battling for the first round bye. So all three of us have clinched the playoffs.
You could call it the gauntlet, perhaps.
Yes, and of course, my end of seasons are always really, really annoying because I have to go through the top dogs, it seems, every year. I'm just that lucky. But we have our starts and our sits for tonight. We're going to go through all of those. So what do you say? You ready to dive in? Starts?
No, I'm not. No, we listen, man. Starts. It's Thanksgiving.
You're right. It is Thanksgiving.
Listen. Okay? I know you want to go right into the starts, but I want to get us into some holiday feelings right now, okay? It's Thanksgiving around the corner. You're probably going to be seeing this very soon here. We're recording this on Tuesday, so we're 2 days away from Thanksgiving here. We want to talk about a bit of some of what we feel like players resembling some nice popular Thanksgiving foods and themes.
You're right. So why don't you give us yours first? Which player is what Thanksgiving dish?
So my food / theme-ish thing here is good on paper, bad in practice here. This is the like someone messed up their like side dish or something. Hopefully it's not the turkey. Which in this case it might actually be, based on how I decided to. Yeah, for those of you that have watched for a while, you might know who I'm about to say here. This is a guy that this is a guy or a dish that you heard and it was like, oh, this would be great, and either didn't live up to your expectations or was butchered on the way to the table. And for me, that person, the burnt mashed potatoes, the way too cheese mac and cheese, the bland random vegetable that's there, that's Michael Pittman Jr. What's wrong with you? Why did you hurt me? Why did I draft you in like 8 out of the 11 leagues that I was originally in, not counting, I counting Guillotine, which I think I drafted him there too. And he's not on my team anymore because I got guillotined the first week. What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this to me? Michael, I put faith in you. I put faith in the whole offense there. And Richardson, Pittman, Josh Downs, you little usurper, you betrayed me. My thoughts. And just like some really bad side dish that just kind of exists for no reason that I have to taste and then gag on a little bit, you disgust me. How dare you?
Yeah, Michael Pittman's been an adventure this year. An adventure you do not want to be on.
An adventure is a really good way of describing it.
Cruel and unusual punishment kind of deal, but still, I mean, that Colts team they're figuring things out. They need just reps on Anthony Richardson, and they just need a new
Reps
system.
will not save my stomach from the bad food.
Oh no, you're in the ER with that. It's already done. Damage is done. You're just trying to mitigate it. But
done.
So
1 or 2 week recovery at best.
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna go with good old mashed potatoes. My favorite part of Thanksgiving. I make them. They're just perfect. Every time you make them, they're solid. When you think of Thanksgiving, you always think turkey. But for me, I think mashed potatoes. So, which player is my mashed potatoes? That's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. This dude comes out every week, is very consistent. He has had 7 games of over 15 fantasy points at the wide receiver position. He's had a couple lower games, but look at the team he plays for. They go very run heavy in the blink of an eye. And then in other cases, they go run heavy, but they can still put up 50-something points. So you're still getting some work in the passing game and getting some work done there. So someone that you can play every week. You don't even think about it, no matter what the matchup is. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is mashed potatoes to me. Man, are they good, and they taste amazing. So now we're ready for our starts, right?
But I'm hungry now.
I know, me too. I might actually go make some instant mashed potatoes just to hold me over for a couple days. We'll see. All right. Without further ado, let's dive right into our starts. All right, Chris. QB start of the week. Who you got?
I have quite the polarizing, shocking, completely turntables upside down on your head, do a little breakdance shimmy. Cooper Rush as my QB start for week this week against the New York Giants. You can sense the hesitation in my voice as I say it. This is more of just a feeling rather than oh yeah, I think he's going to do great because he has this thing, and it's the Giants. They're bad. Cooper Rush the past 2 weeks hasn't looked that bad, which is surprising. If you're a CeeDee Lamb owner, you have not exactly been feeling the best, per se. It's been a more of a diverse sort of landscape there in terms of targets and usage and whatnot, but he's still getting comparable points, I would say. And it's kind of working. And, I don't think that's going to change. Heading into a Thanksgiving Day brawl, 4:30 p.m. against the Giants. That's right. All of you at home have to watch 2 desolate franchises battle it out, probably while you're about to eat or eating dinner. Isn't that don't you feel honored? Don't you feel proud? Isn't that perfect? But yeah, Cooper Rush against the Giants is going to be my QB starter.
The 2 things you got to hope. One of 2 things to happen. Either you're eating dinner when they kick off, so that you miss part of the game, so you have to witness it, or you eat dinner early, and the tryptophan kicks in, so you nap during the game.
Oh,
those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 options.
It's kind of that's a pro strat right there. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Napping through it, it's pretty good.
That's what you got to do. But I mean, still, to your point, I mean, Cooper Rush, he's not good, but Neither is the Giants' defense, so they're 24th against quarterbacks on the season so far in fantasy points given up. So I think that's pretty good. It's a good omen there. I'm going to jump in with my CJ Stroud going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looking at this, again, matchup. Looking at Stroud at the Texans, he has all of his weapons are healthy, minus Stephon Diggs. The matchup is top notch. Last time we saw Stroud against the Jaguars, he went for 345 yards and 2 touchdowns and finished as the QB7 on the week. With the Texans currently as the number 4 seed in the playoffs, they're going to want to lay on the hurt against their in-division rivals. Nico Collins is back. This team can be at their best. Tank Dell's getting a little bit more work. Things are just firing on all cylinders right now. I know last week was a little bit rough. We're coming off that loss. But if you look at it, he's had 2 big touchdowns called back on penalties that didn't affect the play at all. So thanks, NFL officiating. Wonderful. Great job. This week, I'm just thinking Stroud and company are just going to make a statement. You're going to want to make sure he is in your starting lineup because he is about to go nuclear. This matchup has provided fantasy gold for weeks now. So if you have Stroud, you are starting him and you are super, super excited.
Yeah, I mean, we could go over everything that you said. Receivers, Stroud is a good player. Everything's going to be healthy again. But it's to your first point. It's the Jaguars. They're bad. You'll feel pretty good starting them.
Yeah, they're allowing 22.9 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. So I think Stroud could hit 30 this week. Easy.
Okay. All right. Moving on, I'm going to head us off with the running back here. I got Nick Chubb going up against the Denver Broncos. This is a little bit of a weird pick, again, but for different reasons. So last week, he had a pretty good week. It's been his most productive week so far. He's kind of been teetering a bit, and last week he had 2 touchdowns. He had the most carries he's gotten since he's came back from his injury. He had the most yardage since he came back from his injury. His yards per carry wasn't great, but the fact that he's being used is very promising. I'm going to give the touchdown guarantee for the sole purpose that's the only way this actually is probably going to be worth it, if I'm being honest. This is a solid flex RB2 slot, fringe RB2, very, very fringe. This is you're doing with injury level RB2s, right? I have a feeling it will continue to ramp up, is my assumption. As Nick Chubb kind of gets acclimated, he's coming back. Hey, he doesn't look the worst, I would say. Definitely not the Nick Chubb of old, but he also did come back from whatever horrific injury that was, right? So it's promising seeing him being used in such a way.
I like it. I mean, Nick Chubb, he was never going to be the guy that is what he was last year before he went down to injury in the past couple of years. Just because, I mean, that's just the nature of injured running backs. But last week, seeing him get a decent amount of work and punch in 2 touchdowns against the team where he got injured, that was really cool to see. So it's a really cool story. My guy here is going to be Chase Brown going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chase Brown has taken over the backfield in Cincinnati. They brought in Khalil Herbert a couple weeks back, but he's been about as much of a non-factor in this offense as you could possibly get. Just think Blake Corum on the Rams. Brown has been playing 80% or more snaps the past 3 weeks and has finished inside the top 10 in all 3 weeks. They're playing the Steelers at home this week, but coming out of the bye, he's just going to be involved in this in both the ground game as well as the passing game. With the Steelers' defensive line, they're gonna force Burrow to check it down a little bit more than normal, just because they're that good. They're gonna be able, and the Bengals' offensive line it's not gonna be able to hold up very well. So I expect a lot of checkdowns. So PPR ports galore. Just a fun fact here too. Over the past 3 weeks, Chase Brown actually leads all running backs in the NFL in snaps per game with 70 per game. The next closest is Jonathan Taylor with 56. So this dude is out there for pretty much every play, which is awesome. He is used everywhere on the field. So I expect a huge boom week despite the tough matchup.
I will gladly say that at the beginning of the season, we had the conversation of would it be Zach Moss or Chase Brown. And while Zach Moss was in fact injured and now he's out unfairly, I will gladly say that I was wrong. Chase Brown looks fantastic in comparison to Zach Moss. So yeah, that is definitely something I will take the L
I
on.
did tell everyone it was only a matter of time, and here we are. He's been good.
So I will gladly take the L. Chase Brown definitely seems like the guy at the current moment. I made comparisons to Tony Pollard, and it definitely does not seem he is a Tony Pollard. Although Tony Pollard doesn't really seem like he's Tony Pollard sometimes, but that's a story for a different time. That doesn't matter too much.
Who you got at wide receiver?
Yeah, so my wide receiver, I got Zay Flowers. I have a couple reasons here. Going up against a tough matchup against the Eagles. Now, the Ravens are in a comfortable position. They're a fantastic team. I would argue like top 5 team in football. I don't think anyone's really going to try to, dissuade that point in any way, shape, or form. But they are currently, they're at a little bit of a weird situation, right? So they have their bye week next week, week 14. Okay. We've seen the Ravens crumble. This needs to be like a dominant fashion win, in my opinion. Dominant's not what I say. A statement win. It's actually kind of what I'm saying. They need to show that the Eagles are going to fire pretty much everything. I mean, Saquon Barkley just did Saquon Barkley things last week. That's not even including like AJ Brown, everything else. Like the tush push exists because why not? Like the offense looks fine. There were definitely times where the Eagles struggled a bit, but they look like they're back on track. I would be worried if I'm the Ravens going into it, right? Worried may not be the word I should be used here. I would be conscientious of the fact that like if we lose this, it could spiral us out of control here, right? I expect a full functioning, firing on all cylinders offense. I mean, looking at the targets here for Zay Flowers, they're not like the worst. I just think, he 8 targets, 6, 6, 6, 12, 1 that one game, 9, 12, 2, 4, 11, 10. I mean, for more times than not, he's getting targeted a decent amount. I just think it's been unfortunate with how the usage has happened. I think that it's going to turn around. I'm going to give the touchdown guarantee once again because I truthfully believe they're going to utilize him greatly this coming week. They did so last week with Mark Andrews. I think they'll shift that over to Zay Flowers now that maybe some of the focus might be on Mark Andrews to keep kind of him in check. Zay Flowers will have an opportunity to kind of get out there and actually, put up one of these like polarizing games that we've seen a couple times from him already. I mean, I'm looking at some of the stats here. It really is like Zay Flowers, very boomer bust. Got a couple like 100-yard games, 91 yard, and then the rest are anywhere between 30 to 60, right? It's not great by any means, right? However, I will say that going into a tough matchup where you need to have an offense, this would be the time to put him in because the Ravens are simply good enough to beat past that offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their Vegas line right now, and the over/under is 50.5 points. So they expect this game to go pretty boom. So if that's the case, with the tough matchup that Zay Flowers has, I think this is also a well-run team. So it depends on how they scheme their guys open. Zay is a talented wide receiver, so I know the Eagles have been shutting down wide receivers for past couple weeks. But if there's anyone to do it, I believe in the Ravens. So I think I wouldn't put him as a top start, but I would definitely put him. He's definitely wide receiver 2 flex if you're lucky.
This is definitely like very matchup dependent, right? Like if the rest of your matchups are struggling this coming week, even if everyone off of bye, right? Very strong flex / wide receiver 2 option. 100%.
Gotcha. Speaking of wide receiver 2 flex play, I'm gonna go with my guys Calvin Ridley going against the Washington Commanders. ever since the Hopkins trade, Ridley has seen a huge bump in targets and production. The Titans are coming off of an upset win against the Texans, and now they're going to Washington. So, looking at the Commanders' defense, it's been pretty good as of late, but I do think Ridley should have some great success against them because of his skill set. He's being targeted early and often, and Levis he doesn't look as bad as he did in the beginning of the season. Still not. Don't hear what I'm not saying. He's not good, but he's been competent. I guess that's the nicest way to put it. He's been a competent quarterback to get his guys the ball. Now, looking at Ridley, he's been pretty solid the past couple weeks. He's getting 6 or more targets. He's been close to 100 yards most weeks. It really depends on if he can get a deep ball touchdown, which he's had, but it's been called back. So he came out and has been doing enough. So I think with this week, with this matchup, the Commanders are going to be able to put up points on the Tennessee Titans, which is going to force them to try to keep up. And I think that's going to mean Will Levis throwing the ball a little bit more and, a little bit heavier target share for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I don't hate the thought process, especially given like a flex / very fringe wide receiver 2 thought. I get it. I don't hate it. Do I like it? Not the most, but if you need it, you need it, right? If you're struggling, you're struggling. And
I'm starting Calvin Ridley in my dynasty league because I think
over who?
This is Jordan Addison. I think JSN. I got a bunch of that level
over
guys.
JSN.
I might. We'll see.
That's bold.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. I'm tossing back and forth between those guys.
Okay. All right.
I think I got a feeling. I think Ridley's going to do well this week.
Is it your touchdown guarantee?
I'm not throwing a touchdown guarantee because I'm not doing that when Will Levis is the quarterback.
Yeah. I'll move us along here to the tight end portion. The same 8 or 9 guys get mentioned. I got Hunter Henry, our show's favorite tight end. Yeah. I'm just realizing this now. I don't know if it's Sleeper doing this. If you want to show me or just look it up really fast. If I do it, it's gonna flashbang my face. Could you just can you look up a picture of Hunter Henry and just tell me if it looks like a young Tom Brady? Can you just do me a favor while I explain what I'm going on here with? Just look that up real. Yeah. So back to Hunter Henry. This is kind of the second verse, the same as the first, but in this scenario, it's the 18th verse is the same as the first, right? And also the other 17. Up against the Colts, he has a plethora of targets. I don't see that ending. He's getting used well. I know there is this Austin Hooper menace on the horizon. And if you want to start him because you're worried about him, that's okay. That's fine. I just think that's the wrong move. Stick with Hunter Henry. He'll do you right. Why? Austin Hooper is beyond boomer bust. It's very bust and then an all lowercase, italicized, whatever, as soft as humanly possible. Boom. Right? Hunter had why risk the 0 points to the 1 point when you can get a solid 7 points and easily propel yourself into a win. So yeah, Hunter Henry is my 10 of the week. Matt, does he in fact look like a young Tom Brady?
I can see it a little bit, but not.
Okay, so it's not Sleeper.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not insane, but I was looking at this, it's why does this look like Tom Brady's if you guys are on Sleeper, please pull up those you always see those funny pictures online of the Tom Brady draft picture or whatever with his weird cringy smile, right? I want that side by side with Hunter Henry's picture on Sleeper. Tell me there's not at least a 50% resemblance.
I'd give you about 30 to 35, but yeah, I could see it. But yeah, no, I mean Hunter Henry, I don't care about Austin Hooper. That dude, he's done. He's toast. So I don't
He's
care that
done.
he scored a touchdown. It's done. It's over for Hooper. My tight end start of the week is going to be Evan Engram versus the Texans. Now again, what have I been saying all season long? Volume, volume, volume. The Texans should jump out to a pretty early lead this week, as everyone has done against the Jaguars, and it's been, you know, they're gonna abandon the run really early, and that's just gonna mean Mac Jones is gonna have to throw. I don't think there's any news on Trevor Lawrence. I'm assuming, as of right now, most likely he's going to be shut down for the season, but we shall see. Um, Mac Jones is not good. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but Evan Engram is going to see as much volume as he could possibly handle. The Texans haven't really done, you know, the best or the worst against tight ends. They haven't really played against a good tight end, and given up a lot because they just get pummeled on everywhere else. Um, Over the past 3 weeks, he is averaging about 8 or more targets per game. Looking at the projected game script, he's just going to be really necessary for this offense to move. So I expect a lot of PPR points. You know, he could get 10 plus targets this week. Even if he only catches like, 60, 70% of them, like that's still not bad. Uh, the yardage could be there. So this is more of a, if you're desperate and you need someone, I mean, I think he finishes top 8 at the tight end position this week, which top 8 is kind of relative at the tight end position, but still pretty good. So,
That makes sense. I don't disagree. I could understand. He's definitely a safe and reliable person for Mac Jones to throw to. So yeah, as much as it sucks to trust Mac Jones, I can kind of get behind.
all right. You waited this long. Now let's get sad again. Sits of the week. Here we go. All right, Chris. Who we sitting?
So my sit is actually going to be a bunch of running backs here. I got the Chargers running back core this week to sit. Now we're pretty sure that J.K. Dobbins is not going to play. I'm pretty sure at least this upcoming week. And if that's even if he does play, I don't know if I would want to feel confident with him. I think he'll be on the snap count if he does play somehow. But even then, Gus Edwards is the next guy in there. I mean, I know I was singing his praises last year, right? Like that was me. He won me weeks last year. He was one of the reasons why I won last year. Like, listen, I love Gus the Bus. However, sometimes the bus breaks down. Sometimes the bus just simply isn't ready to get going, and that's what I think is happening right now. You know, I don't want to trust. You know, you're going into week 13. There's like 2 weeks left until the fantasy playoffs, and every win matters, right? You don't want to trust your entire season on someone who could just easily be a bust, right? Like this. There are much different players that I would rather have boom or bust potential than Gus Edwards. And Vidal and Haskins, I don't anticipate moving that needle any further. So I would fade the running backs for the Chargers right now. Just kind of stay to the course. Surely there's another option somewhere in there. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Gus Edwards and the rest of that core on the Chargers running backs, go ahead and set them.
Agreed. For me here, I'm going to go with Najee Harris going against the Cincinnati Bengals. Najee's been okay the past couple weeks, but we really thought he was about to go on a heater. Like, he had back-to-back-to-back games over 100 yards. He was scoring touchdowns, heavily utilized in the passing game. We thought this was like, wow, he shed a little bit of weight, looks good, and he's losing work to a healthy Jalen Warren. Lost the goal line carry last week. You know, I know that was the Snowmageddon game, but still, it was not good to see Najee not being involved. He's the type of player where you need a decent chunk of work to really elevate his floor, which usually he's kind of a floor play. it's really just like at this point of the year, at this point of the season, you might not need floor, you might need ceiling, and I just don't think that exists with Najee anymore. Um, I don't expect him to be back with the Steelers. This could just be the beginning of the end. They're going to see what they have. I mean, they're it still looks like they're playoff bound and everything. It's just it depends on how it's going to work out, and if he gets a big play, or if he gets a touchdown. But touchdowns are not sticky, especially for running backs. Of his like with his situation, I just don't know if I'm comfortable thinking he's going to get that ceiling. If I need a big play this week, and a lot of you do because we're real close to playoffs, you need that win. I don't know if Najee's going to be the guy you want to put in. I would probably put in a guy with a little bit more upside. I'm not going down as low as Jalen Warren. Like, I'm not saying do that, but there's probably a couple of guys you might want to look around him and put over him. So,
Yeah, I'll add on to that really fast. I agree, by the way, and to kind of stretching the point even more, we're definitely at a point now where when you are contemplating guys of the boomer bust caliber, even if the bust is somehow catastrophically worse, right? If the boom ceiling is that much higher, I think you take it because what's the point, right? You're at the point where you need the wins, right? You absolutely need to keep going, keep trucking. That was kind of like the theme of the waiver wire show in terms of who you need to pick up, right? You need to, at this point, prioritize that if you're kind of worried about what's happening here. Like, for instance, another hot topic debate here. Let me ask you this, okay? So you talk about Najee Harris losing work to a Jalen Warren here, okay? We have a somewhat weirder situation, almost like the exact opposite in a way. So we were talking about it a little bit earlier on the podcast, so I kind of spontaneously thought about this question. Isaiah Pacheco is coming back. If he plays this week, Kareem Hunt, start yes or no?
Kareem Hunt, yeah. My
Okay.
my position on that is even if Isaiah Pacheco comes back, I mean the dude broke his leg. Like it's not like he just went for a walk and twisted his ankle and okay, he broke his leg. They're gonna. This is a team that is thinking Super Bowl. We want to get the three-peat. They're not gonna give him a full allotment of snaps. They're gonna work him back because they need him to stay healthy. We saw this with Tony Pollard last year. That's why everyone was upset with Tony Pollard drafting him where they did because when he broke his leg, it's like oh no he's good and it took him a bit to get back into the swing of things. And just look at his run style. It's not the best thing for someone coming off a broken leg. So Kareem Hunt for me, he's still the RB1 of that offense. I'm gonna wait and see how Isaiah Pacheco looks before I put him in my starting lineup. You win some, you lose some, but I would definitely play Kareem Hunt over Najee Harris in that case. Would you play DeAndre Swift over that? Because DeAndre Swift, since the firing of Shane Waldron, has pretty much gotten all of the work. Roshan Johnson is the goal line back. He's had a couple carries here and there, but it's DeAndre Swift's team, which I never thought I would say again, but it's DeAndre Swift's team.
You all know how I feel about DeAndre Swift. If you kind of went back in time a bit, like way early on in the season, I had a whole rant about this. And since that rant, actually, like the next like 3 or 4 weeks, I was eating my words, and now he's come back down to earth. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was just talking about like if you need the boomer bust. This is a perfect example. If this is something you need, this is the guy that you want. It sucks. But if you're kind of struggling and you got like these guys who's like, man, I don't know if I can just be okay with someone just scoring their projected, right? If their projected is like 9, 10, 11 points, and you're like, man, I know I'm going up against some titan in my league. I'm going against like the first place guy. He's like 11-1 or something like that.
If you're
He is
going
like
against Saquon Barkley,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, something nonsensical, okay, and you need something to kind of push you over. This is kind of where you have to kind of take variance at a hand, and you look at the stats here, and there's a higher percentage chance that DeAndre Swift goes off based on what he's done so far this year than Najee Harris does this year. Like it's just kind of how that works. So yeah, DeAndre Swift is a perfect example of if you need the boot, if you need the high ceiling but the low floor, uh, that's the guy you're gonna go with.
Gotcha. I want to ask you one question quick. We didn't
Sure.
talk about this pre-show. We didn't talk about this at all. So I'm going to put you
Oh
on the
boy.
spot here. Um, which player right now? Because every year we have these guys like Kyron Williams last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown
League
a couple years
winners.
ago.
Okay.
Who is going to be your playoff king? Who's going to be the guy we're looking at the end of the season going, that dude won people championships? If you need time
Okay.
to think about it, I got my guy.
So I have to ask, right? Now, when league winner, right? 'Cause we had this conversation before the season started. Just league winner in general, or like
League
league
winner in
winner
general,
off
not someone you
in
picked up.
general. Okay,
It can
you
be
go
someone you
first.
picked off on
I have
waivers.
a couple guys. I have a
Okay.
couple guys in mind. Let me kind of narrow down my thoughts. You go first.
All right. So my guy is actually going to be my running back start of the week. It's going to be Chase Brown. And point being is
One.
this offense is awesome. This offense is running on full cylinders. T. Higgins is healthy. Jamar Chase is great. They're simply just giving him all the work he can handle. And if he holds up, which I think he can, he is going to be an integral part of every week. And I think the touches alone are going to put him in the area of prime Christian McCaffrey, getting as much work as possible and seeing the ball as many times as they possibly can get him in every game. And he's explosive. He's got obvious touchdown upside every week being a part of this team. So Chase Brown for me is going to be one of these guys where you're looking back and oh yeah, that makes sense. Chase Brown it went off for 30 points in the playoffs and won you the league. That's going to be my guy. You got your guy yet?
I do. Sorry, you saw a flashbang. I was looking something up. So I originally, when looking at the list here, I was gonna go Chuba Hubbard. I think a fantastic Chuba Hubbard, Tyron Tracy. I think are fabulous options for this. But there is a singular entity that I think deserves it more so, and it's for a position that matters in my opinion more. And I think my league winner this year in the draft, right? You did this in the draft. There obviously more than one league winner, right? Obviously, JSN. I think JSN is definitely like we had talked about it like way back when during draft season, like who would be the best like value for where you picked them at, and I believe you had Cooper Cup, and obviously the injury happened, and that's unfortunate. You can't really control that, but I don't think anyone had JSN. JSN's like ranked 8th or 9th right now in our league, like wide receivers overall, and he was like picked 102 overall, I believe. In sleeper on average here on Fantasy Pros is what I'm looking at. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at it right here.
Let me check.
But that's what I have on sleeper specifically. It looks like consensus is pick 95 overall. So I like it a lot. I like him way more. I mean, I was on definitely the train of probably more of a future thought. Clearly not. Don't know what's going on with DK. Sorry, buddy, but JSN is apparently the guy. He's just kind of there. And while yes, Geno Smith isn't exactly great, league winners don't always have to be the most dominant things in the entire world, right? Take Rashee Rice, for example. I wouldn't consider Rashee Rice had a couple 20-point games, but the consistency of the 13, 14, 50-point games over a span of weeks at the end of the season is really what kind of puts you over the line there. Same thing with Zay Flowers, right? Guys like that where you like pick them on free waivers randomly or really late round draft picks and you just kind of banked on them being better, right? That's really, really kind of that's where the value comes from. That's like you feel like big brains. So yeah, I'm gonna go with JSN. I think that would be like my choice here. Although I very close second and third is definitely Chuba Hubbard or Tyron Tracy.
Yeah, JSN right now is wide receiver 12 on the season. So wide receiver
Gotcha.
1,
Okay.
averaging about 9.2 fantasy points per game. So he's got a chance to solidify his way up there. And I think this is the year we've all kind of been waiting for him, to be honest. I mean, I've been a JSN owner since he entered the league, and it's always been kind of like, all right, is it time? Is it his time finally? And it's always been like,
You sound like a Kyle Pitts owner.
Kyle Pitts, Joe Mixon, all the guys that took a while to really get going. But, you know, we kind of mentioned it last week, in the Richie's start of the week was JSN last week. That paid off pretty good. And part of the reason is Tyler Lockett is becoming a non-factor. DK was injured, so I'm expecting him to really take another step forward and be this, target monster in this offense. DK will still be the big play guy. He'll still be the red zone threat. But, I mean, JSN scored a red zone touchdown last week. So I do think they're gaining chemistry, and I think this is going to be one of those guys, like you said, could be on a lot of rosters in the finals.
I have one follow-up here, and then I'll shut up. We didn't talk about the position at all. Quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix are obviously kind of the guys here that are the most polarizing amongst the rookies. I have always been very, very not only hesitant on taking rookie quarterbacks in the drafts, which I will remain to be for the rest of time, more than likely, but I'm also very hesitant usually on giving them the status of league winner because of just how close that race usually goes. Would you consider Jane Daniels or Bo Nix a league winner, like in that category? In that
range? I like Bo Nix's schedule a little bit more. Even though he's got to go through some tough defenses, I think that's going to be good for him because it's going to force him to throw the ball. I do think that Bo Nix could be a league winner this year, but with the quarterback position just being, I mean, Baker Mayfield, you got Lamar Jackson, a lot of these guys can very easily be. I mean, Jalen Hurts is probably going to win the most amount of leagues just because Jalen Hurts on that offense and his schedule is just, you can't
ridiculous.
Beat it, man. I mean, it's awesome. So I think like you said, with quarterbacks, it's a little more difficult to put that label on them just because of the difference between each guy. It's somewhat of a replaceable position in fantasy, just the way it works. But, I mean, one of these Russian guys, and Bo Nix is one of those guys, Jalen Hurts, obviously, it's going to be interesting.
I only bring it up because I would consider CJ Stroud, like, if he wasn't a league winner, he was, like, scratching that surface with how good he was playing, right? Like, that was like, you picked him up on the waivers, you put him in, right? If you had Aaron Rodgers last year and he went down and you were feeling pretty down in the dumps and you picked him up, instant replacement, like, you felt fantastic, right? Something of that nature, right? It's kind of where I'm, like, thinking about this, right? Because I feel like that, unfortunately, it's how you have to kind of think about quarterbacks in this conversation. It's like, if something catastrophic happened, right? Or Anthony Richardson, right? If you drafted him or you had him or you picked him up on waivers and you dropped your subpar quarterback and then he got downed and then you pick up CJ Stroud, pretty good. But yeah, I digress.
Yep. I'm still not giving up hope on Tony, so he could also be a league winner. So, but that's just how it goes. I got faith in Tony.
Yeah. Sure.
That's for another podcast. So that's going to wrap things up for us this evening. Thank you again for watching. Leave us a like and a share in you can throw a comment in there, which guy you're looking at. If you got any start-sit questions, we would love to answer those on one of our shows, or we'll, just respond to the video comments. As always, good luck. Have fun.
And have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes. We'll see you all next week. So long, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.